Chair Leahy, whom I've known for a number of years, who's in charge of the Progress Community Corrections Center here in Waynesburg. And so I just always wanted to learn more about what goes on out there. And so I decided if I'm interested, maybe there's some other people. So Chair, why don't you start just by giving us a short bio of yourself, and then you're on.
Well, my name's Jay Leahy. I'm the director, center director at Progress Community Correction Center, which is a PV center in Greene County, right on SCI Greene's compound. However, we're not really affiliated with SCI Greene. My bachelor degree is from Waynesburg University, Waynesburg College back then. It was a degree of education. Stayed on as a coach at Waynesburg for about a decade. Got my master's degree from Waynesburg University in business administration, and which has nothing to do with criminal justice. So, I transitioned from Waynesburg University to the Department of Corrections, Pennsylvania Department of Corrections. I was able to get a job at Progress Community Correction Center as a monitor back in 2012, and have been there ever since. So I've seen the place grow and change, and I've held every job that you can hold in that center, from the monitor, which is in charge of the security of the center, to a counselor, which helps with the therapeutic aspect of the center, to the counselor supervisor. Now I'm running the center. So it's a little bit about me. It's a short snippet. So what is a parole violator? So like I said before, Progress is a PV center. It's a parole violator center. A parole violator, there's two types of parole violators: a technical parole violator. A technical parole violator is a person under parole supervision who violates the terms and conditions of their parole. Technical parole violator examples include breaking curfew, moving without permission, failing to report as instructed, or unauthorized contact with victims. Some of these violations may be sanctioned by additional parole restrictions. Treatment programs, treatment program participation, or recommitted to prison, depending upon the severity and frequency of the violations. And that's kind of one of the hardest part for people that aren't a part of parole to understand, because it varies. You know, you listen to a couple different reentrants, and they're saying, well, man, all I did was get high once, and they sent me back here. And all I did was fail to report, and they sent me back here. But what they don't tell you is how many times they got high and how many times they failed to report. And so that was probably the hardest part for me when I switched over from being a monitor to a counselor, was really kind of figuring that out, which I still don't understand a whole lot about the parole and their sanctions, other than they drop guys off at our center. So, but TPV. And then you had a convicted parole violator. Now those guys are the ones, they actually end up going back to a state correctional facility. A convicted parole violator who violates parole by committing a new crime on parole or while delinquent on parole. For a parolee to be recommitted as a CPV, a crime must be committed during a period of parole or while delinquent on parole, and the crime must be punishable by imprisonment, and the parolee must be convicted or found guilty by a judge or jury, or plead guilty in a court of record of any misdemeanor or third degree or and certain summary offenses. So what that kind of mean? That a convicted parole violator cannot be in our center. Okay, we only house TPVs, a technical parole violator. We do not house CPVs. A CPV, they have to go back into an SCI, and then until their hearings are held. We cannot have anybody with an open warrant or open criminal charges. In case those charges come back that they are found guilty, then they would go back to start serving that new sentence.
So then, if a person is a CPV, would they be put back in SCI Greene or some other center until the court procedures are done? Is that right?
Correct. Yeah. They would go back to another state correctional institution, SCI Greene, Camp Hill, Houtzdale, whatever, or not Houtzdale, Muncie if it's a female, any one of the state correctional institutions.
Do you have females there?
We do not know. There's one female PV center. It's actually out in Philadelphia.
Okay.
Parole versus probation. Anybody know what the difference between parole and probation are?
Not a clue.
Probation is a form of supervision. The courts grant probation to offenders instead of jail time or prison time. When you are on probation, you are still in custody, but you'll be in custody in your community rather than incarceration. So the best way to kind of think about probation is if it's at the county level. Okay, so
Okay.
I'm sure, I think Dave Jones, I kept trying to draw a blank at the probation supervisor here at in Greene County, but it's at the county level for. But if you've been incarcerated at the state level, that is parole. It's a form of conditional release. Okay, if you get parole, you'll be released from prison before your sentence is complete. However, you will still be in custody and you'll be serving your time in the community. So,
Is that where you wear an ankle monitor under?
not necessarily. Not necessarily. You do not have to. It can, depending upon your form of parole, what your board action says. So when you get released from prison, you get a board action, and your board action says you have to be in by 10 o'clock at night. You're not allowed to frequent any bars or establishments that serve alcohol. You might have to wear a GPS monitoring system based on your crime or whatever parole, the parole board deems necessary. But whatever that parole board stipulates, you must follow. So you don't always have to have GPS ankle monitoring. Ankle monitor can be both probation and parole, but it's based on what punishment those two organizations deem necessary. But both of them, so a guy that or a female that gets released from prison, maybe they're serving a 2 to 4 year sentence for drugs, they have to serve a minimum of 2 years inside a state correctional institution. Once that 2 years is up, they can apply for parole, and once they're accepted on parole, then they can get released from prison while being under the jurisdiction of parole agents.
Now, will they be on parole until they reach the maximum?
Until they
sentence?
yes, until they reach their maximum 4 year sentence.
Yes, okay.
So probation, arrest, conviction, parole, sentence complete. Parole, arrest, conviction, prison, parole, sentence complete. So the big difference there is prison, right?
Right.
That's the difference.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's good that none of you guys know about parole and probation.
I don't know.
The key points about parole violation process. If a parolee is arrested for a crime while on parole, the parolee will most likely be returned to prison. Other parole violations may or may not result in reincarceration, depending upon what the violation is and if it's a repeated behavior. All violations will result in a sanction ranging from curfew, increased urine testings, or attending programming to be placed in an inpatient or technical parole violator center, which is what we are.
Mm-hmm.
The board may also impose a period of brief detention as a form of sanction. So everything's based on the board. So if I'm on parole and I get in trouble and my parole officer says, hey, listen, last chance, and I mess up again, he can send me to, he can say, hey, listen, now you got curfew at 9 o'clock at night. You're not allowed to leave the county. You're not allowed to do X, Y, Z. And if I break that, then I can be returned to, a PV center. If a parolee is arrested on new criminal charges, the board has the authority to lodge a detainer against the parolee, which will prevent his release from custody, pending disposition of those charges, even though the parolee may have posted bail or has been released on his own recognizance from those charges.
So who makes up the board?
That's at the Harrisburg. So I don't know a lot about the parole board. I do know that it's out of Harrisburg. It's out of the central office. So I can only, it's gonna sound bad, but I can only envision like a group of men and women around a table, looking at their chart and be like, that's not how it is. And I don't know who's on the board. Because I'm not a parole, I don't work for parole and probation. So I do not know who's on the board, nor do I really know how they sanction people and by what manner. I would assume that they have a criteria. If they've been convicted of XYZ offenses, then they get moved over to a certain category. And if whatever their violation was while on parole, then that's how they base their sanctions. But yeah, as far as the parole board, that's a great question. I'm in dark on that too. If a parolee violates a condition of parole, and after the appropriate hearings, the board decides the parolee is in violation of a condition of parole, the individual may be recommitted to a prison for a time specified by the board. So typically those times it's progressive. So you'll go 6 months, you'll go a year, or you'll go 6 months, a year, 2 years, and then they'll revoke your parole.
So when you refer to prison that is an institution of SCI Greene, not the Progress.
Yes, we are not a prison. We are a community corrections center.
Okay.
And so, yeah, anytime I refer to prison, that is SCI Greene. That is a major, prison that we have, state correctional institution that we have. If a parolee is convicted of a crime committed while on parole, the board has the authority, after an appropriate hearing, to recommit the parolee to serve the balance of the sentence or the sentence that the parolee was serving when paroled, with no credit for time at liberty while on parole. So what does that kind of mean? So that's basically saying that if I'm on parole, I'm serving that 2 to 4, and I did a year free. So I'm 3 years into my 4-year sentence, and I commit another crime. They can take back that year.
Wipes it out.
And it can wipe it completely out. It's like it never happened. And then I'll get that added on to a new sentence.
You sort of have to disincentivize crime,
Right. Yeah.
Because otherwise he's just going to try a crime, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, and then he gets to keep going. But if
Well, it doesn't, just because you committed if you're on parole and you violate parole, that's not committing a new crime.
right.
So that's different than if I go out and steal a car.
Right.
If I violate parole, I could be, getting high. I could fail to report, not show up to my monthly meetings, or not show up to my weekly check-ins, fail to answer the phone. All those things are violations of parole. And again, they're all outlined on your board action, and the reentrants know that when they leave, with exactly what they can and can't do.
What's the difference between serving a sentence consecutively and concurrently?
Okay, consecutive means, so if I have a 2 to 4 and a 2 to 6 served consecutive, that means one after the other. So that would be a 4 to 10, basically. I would serve a 2 to 4, then I would serve another 2 to 6. Concurrent means at the same time. So the 2 to 4 and 2 to 6 can be served concurrent, which means I would really be doing a 2 to 6. So that's
So
the
one gets you less time than the other.
Yes, overall, yes. A hearing is required before parole may be, a hearing is required before your parole may be revoked. The parolee is entitled to assistance of counsel at reconviction and violation hearing and to free counsel if indigent. The parole board does not appoint counsel. A public defender of the county in which the indigent parolee is incarcerated provides counsel. Rules of criminal procedures do not apply. Parole board regulations govern proceedings. And a parolee also has a right to waive all hearings. So typically, all the time, our parolees or parole violators, when they come back to our center, they have to waive their rights to hearing if they want to be in our center to start our program. Their board action, once they get to our center, will state parole upon completion of program. So they cannot get a board action until that hearing would happen, until that hearing would take place. If they waive their hearing, then the board action can kick right into place and it will say parole upon completion of the program. Progress CCC, our center. Progress CCC operates as a secure 120-bed PV center. We currently house right around 60. We fluctuate anywhere between 55 and 65. We have at least for the past 5-6 months. We just started accepting direct commits, which a direct commit typically is from this area. Allegheny, Westmoreland, Fayette, Greene County. If you violate parole, your parole agent will bring you into our center and you can start your programming right away. But again, those guys would have to waive their hearings to start our program.
How many guys are in a room, a living unit?
That's a great question. If we were going to be 120 beds, we would have two reentrants per room. We also have 2 dormitories that would house 20 reentrants. So we currently with 60, we kind of keep it 20, 20, 20. We incentivize our pods. So we have 3 pods. Progress Community Correction Center has 3 pods, A, B, and C. Our A pod is for new intakes. Anybody that comes into the facility that's brand new, they go straight to A pod. They can be double celled there. You can have a roommate or cellie. After a couple weeks, if you're on your good behavior, you don't get any what we consider misconducts or infractions, you can go over to B pod. B pod has a few more perks. You're all single celled, and you have some more games and stuff like that you're able to use for your free time. And then ultimately you go to C pod, your goal would be to go to C pod, which is dormitory living, which doesn't sound, no, that's not fair. I don't want to live with 10 other guys, in one dorm. However, they have the most yard. It's a bigger pod. They have vending machines on their pod to use. So it's a little bit more incentivized than B pod, if you will. So that's kind of your trajectory. And plus, once you leave our center and you would go to any other halfway house, you're being housed in a room very similar to this. And you might have 4 or 5 bunks in a room this size, and you're living in a room this size with 5, 6, 7 other adult men. Secure means that all daily activities will take place inside the secure perimeter of the facility. This applies to all treatment, education, recreation, meals, leisure time, housing, visits, etc. There is no work release program or furloughs during the stay at Progress. Okay, so everything takes place. You do not leave unless it's a medical emergency. If there's a medical emergency, then we can take you to SCI or Washington County, Washington Health System Greene, or some people, depending upon the severity of the emergency, we can take you up to Washington Health System or into Allegheny Health Network or UPMC.
But you can't take them out of state.
We cannot take them out. There's been one guy that's went out of state, and it was a mental health reason.
How about Washington Hospital?
Yes, yep. Most of our guys do go to Washington Hospital.
Mhm.
When actually, and to piggyback off that, when they leave our facility and to kind of go what you asked earlier, when you leave our facility for whatever reason it may be, medical or not, you must have a ankle monitoring system on, GPS monitoring system on. Our program is a 70 to 90 day PV program as an alternate means to incarceration due to your violations. Okay, so as a, normal, I guess most people would agree a 70 to 90 day incarceration period is a lot better than a 6 month hit
yeah.
or a
Yeah.
9 month hit or a year hit. So it's a kind of a way to incentivize that. Again, hey, you come do this program, you're a lot cheaper. It's a lot cheaper to house a reentrant at Progress than it is to house an inmate at SCI Greene. And you can get out almost twice as fast. Recidivism is a person's relapse into criminal behavior. Our current rate is right around 23%. And that's really all the PV centers across state. And there's only 3 PV centers across state. We are one of 2 on this side of the state. Erie has 1. It's a contract facility. We're the only state-run PV center in the state. The other 2 are contract facilities, and ours is the biggest of the PV centers. But combined, we're all sitting around 23%. And really, kind of we always talk about the guys that are employed in corrections. They never see the good. They never see the success stories.
Mhm.
They come, they
we see
go,
the people who
and
fail,
we see the guys that fail. So that can be draining. You never see the good work behind. No one ever calls you back up and say, "Hey, man, Mr. Lay, you did a fantastic job as the counselor supervisor of the council. You really made me." They'll tell you that while you're there, but you don't know if it really helped full time. So that's kind of really, one of those things where actually I got an email this week. They want to promote success stories, and I don't know if I can think of any success stories off the top of my head because we don't see them every day, or they don't live with us. Once they're done as a parole violator, they go off to other halfway houses, and there you can see success stories. Once they go to a home plan, we kind of lose touch with them. Programming treatment. Programming is based on your entrance, criminogenic and treatment needs. The reentrants are either assessed by SCI parole agents or the street agent. So there's 2 different kind of parole agents. And again, I'm not a parole agent by any stretch of the imagination, but there are parole agents that work the street that oversee caseloads, and then you have SCI parole agents that would work at Smithfield, SCI Greene, that would assess the reentrants and then tell us what programming they need to be successful.
So a street agent, why is he called a street agent?
Well, because they do not have their office is, the sub offices in Allegheny County, in
At
Westmoreland
the
County. So
locale,
they actually work the streets. They have,
yeah.
if I'm a parolee on the street, I have what I would consider a street agent. They are my agent on the street. They're my home agent. So that's why they're called street agents. That's, a kind of a de facto term, I guess. Programs consist of substance use disorder, SUD, personal growth, anger management, carry guides, batterers intervention, sex offender programming, parenting, employment, mental health, a 21-day fix, and therapeutic packet. That doesn't mean we run all these programs or each
What are
reentrant takes.
Carry guides.
Carry guides is a program that I believe it's a 3-week course that we run 3 times a week. So there's 9 sessions, and it basically covers the gamut of every issue that you might have. It doesn't, like SUD kind of pinpoints just your substance use. Personal growth is a little bit broader spectrum, covers a little bit of everything. Carry guides is kind of like the big scope. It covers substance use, it covers parenting, it covers employment, it kind of covers just a little bit of everything. The way to change your thinking is what carry guides is. At our center, every reentrant must take personal growth and carry guides. Those are the only 2 mandatory programs that a reentrant has to take while they're with us. Those SCI or street agents will assess the reentrant to see if they need to take substance use, if they need to take batterers intervention, sex offender programming, parenting, employment, mental health are all optional. Hey, I'm bored, just sitting here. I want to take parenting. I got a young kid. I want to take parenting. I feel that I want to change the way I think, my mental health. I can take that group. Employment, I want to kind of learn to make myself a little bit more employable. So those are ones that kind of can make a reentrant a little bit more successful in their reentry efforts. 21-day fix program is a program developed by Dr. Christian Conti, and it is a program that they take in their cell, and it's all packets, and same with therapeutic packet. It's all packets, but it's designed. They're both designed to get the reentrant to kind of self-analyze. I used to hand out a lot of the therapeutic packets, but in the first couple pages are what did you do in your past, what did you do in your present, where do you see yourself in the future. So it kind of gets you thinking about where you've been, where you're at, and where you want to be.
Do you find that they're responsive to that? Is that successful?
I don't know if it's successful. I do think that the people that take it serious, there were, the ones that did take it serious, you could see that they wanted to get, or that you felt that they wanted to just become productive members of society. And there were ones that just said, filled out basically, the bare minimum. They didn't put any thought or effort into it. And those, I don't know if they were successful or not. You can kind of figure out that they might not have been, based on the effort they're putting into a packet. How much effort are you going to put into your sobriety, or whatever ailment you might have. Carry guides, personal growth, anger management, 21-day fix, and therapeutic packets. they're mandatory to go back again, but the 21-day fix and the therapeutic packets are in cell, and they are packets that the reentrants do at their own pace. They get checked off on by their counselor, and then have one-on-one sessions with their counselor going over each lesson, while Carrot Guides Personal Growth are groups that the reentrants take to in a group setting, a classroom style setting. I believe, like I said earlier, Carrot Guides is 3 weeks. Personal Growth is 10 weeks, which is where that 70-day mark kind of kicks in. And then substance use SUD is a 9 week and 9 1/3 week course. SUD, Batterers Intervention, Sex Offender Programming are based on their community-genic needs and treatment needs. The therapeutic packets are completed in cell. Mental health, parenting, and employment are all voluntary groups. Like you and I, or like we all discussed earlier, I would love to get banking back in, and love to get a volunteer from Career Links to come in and for employment. People to do that on the regular as part of their profession would be able to offer a little bit more insight than what our counselors are able to offer. The daily routine. Programming hours are 8:30 to 4 o'clock, Monday through Friday. Reentrants not attending program throughout the hours of 8:30 to 4 are required to be awake for the duration of the programming day. That's a little different from the SCI. The SCIs, they can sleep all day if they choose to. We require them to be awake because productive members of society are typically awake from 8 to 4.
Right. Yeah.
Unless you work midnight shift, and at which point you still got to be up for an 8-hour stretch anyway. While not in groups, reentrants have access to Yard, various games, including Xbox games, movies, puzzles, virtual visits, Zoom visits with their family members, and then our center library they have access to.
But I noticed you don't have surfing the internet.
No.
So there's no connection to the outside.
We do have a computer lab, and that computer lab is right now we have 8 iMacs at our facility. They are not hooked up to the internet. We have a MiFi box which runs off our Verizon cell phone towers inside our Progress Community Correction Center. The service is sketchy, but that's how our reentrants are able to have access to the virtual visits using that MiFi box. We do in the employment groups, we will allow them to search for jobs, but again, it's very difficult to search for jobs when in Greene County, and I might be going to Philadelphia County or Delaware County. A lot of times it's, but again, not what you know, it's who you know. So reentrants typically have, when they leave our facility, if they're not going to a home plan, they go to a halfway house, and we'll discuss that here in a little bit. But when they do that, then they're able to go out and search for jobs because they're able to come and go from the center, and they're where their home base is going to be. Our medical staff, we have a nurse, and she assists in medical issues and concerns. Reentrants are only permitted medical care in the community when it's deemed an emergency. And that happens more than you would think. Excuse me. We've had guys go out for various number of reasons. Stomach pain, chest pain, and some of them could be employing, especially guys that are around this area. It's an easy way to get out. When I was a monitor, I had somebody escape from me at Greene County Hospital. He ran from me. we're walking in, he's not in handcuffs, he's not an inmate. We're walking in, I'm just escorting him, and he took off. He said, he turned around and said, "I'm sorry, Mr. Layu," and took off. I mean, I can't do anything to stop him. It's, so he ended up getting absconding charge, and then that violated his parole. And then when we learned today, when we violate parole, all that gets kind of kicked back. And he had to actually, he didn't get new criminal charges from it, but he did have to serve some time, I believe, at SCI Smithfield on that one, I believe. So, that's actually, after that is when GPS monitoring systems became a little bit more prevalent. As much as we like to think that they're there to do good, there are guys there that are just trying to get out and do bad, and we need to be able to monitor that, and we try that through GPS monitoring systems and stuff like that if we have to take somebody out into the public, and they are escorted by our security staff and monitors. We offer telemed, which is through Zoom visits that for mental health, they would meet with a psychiatrist and they would be able to get their psychiatric meds that way. And we offer that once a week. We do have a doctor come up from SCI Greene, or a nurse practitioner or a PA come up once a week to kind of for anything that our nurse would not be able to handle. Meal times, breakfast starts at 7, lunch is at 11:15, and dinner is at 7. And then it's a long time to go from dinner to breakfast. We do have, for those that are able to get money and have support from the outside, we do have vending machines that our reentrants can use to supplement themselves between dinner and breakfast. Once they're released, they'll go to a halfway house. In Region 1, you're looking at map of Philadelphia or map of Pennsylvania. You have the very bottom southeastern part of Pennsylvania consists of 3 counties: Philadelphia, Berks, and Delaware. That's Region 1. Really, really small. But there's a lot of people that make up Philadelphia, Berks, and Delaware. There's 1 state-run halfway house and 5 contract facilities that make up those halfway houses in Region 1. Region 2, again, if you're looking at the state map, it's all the counties in the middle, from like Clearfield County on the not including Clearfield County, but if you can draw a line from Clearfield County down to the northeastern side of the state, which would be Lackawanna. It covers the majority of the state. And there are 5 state-run halfway houses and 11 contract facilities. Region 3, our region, are all the counties in the western part of the state, as far east as Clearfield County, Cambria County, Johnstown area. There are 4 state-run halfway houses, including Progress Community Correction Center. Although we are not a halfway house, we are still part of the BCC. We are a PV center, which is very, very different from a halfway house. And then a home plan. So a home plan, you must be approved by parole. A reentrant can put in as many home plans as they want, and they all must be investigated by parole, by the street agents, the agents on the street doing the investigating. They will go to your home. They will make sure it doesn't violate any conditions of your parole, mainly being no weapons, no drugs, no alcohol in the house. Am I allowed in the house? A parole agent can go into a home plan 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That is one of the stipulations of parole. That home must be open. So if I own the home and, somebody wants to come live with me, if I don't agree to that, the home plan is automatically denied. So the home must be open 24 hours.
So you
a
don't
day,
have
7 days
a right to require a warrant or anything like that?
No,
It's just,
no.
it's just.
It's a lot that a parole agent has a lot more authority than a police officer when it comes to going into a parolee's house. Because they are under their jurisdiction. So we differ from a halfway house. Again, we're a secure PV center. A halfway house, a reentrant can come and go, not really as they please, but they are allowed to come and go. They can get passes. If they have work, they can get work release, where we don't offer any of that. They're here for inpatient treatment. So that's the main difference between our center and a traditional halfway house. They're allowed to earn money, where they're not allowed to earn money. They're not allowed to leave the center for any reason. Where a halfway house, you can get passes and whatnot. Community resources, spoke about earlier. I would love to get NAAA. It's probably the most requested service that we don't provide for our reentrants. Religious services, again, having somebody come in and just offer non-denominational religious services would be big for us. Career links, we used to have them come in. I've been in contact with them, not so much since I've been the director, but as the council supervisor, I tried to get them to come in, and it really kind of stopped when COVID hit. And then now they're down with, they're obviously short staffed, and they can't help us like they used to. But my goal would be to bring them back in, or somebody in that could facilitate those sort of opportunities for our reentrants. General banking and credit monitoring, those skills, those are life skills that our reentrants need. And like we talked about earlier, my daughter does not sign a check, but she also has me to teach her how to sign a check. A lot of times the reentrants don't have that, to where they can search for credit scores and those general banking do's and don'ts. Clothing for indigent reentrants, we just started with the last month allowing our reentrants to wear street clothes, polos, jeans.
In the facility.
In the facility. And prior to that, and some of the indigent ones, or the ones that don't really want to have clothing sent in, are wearing, the lack of better terms, prison blues. Blue button-down shirt, a brown T-shirt, and jean pants made by Correctional Industries at SCI Greene. The benefit to allowing us to wear clothing, outside clothing, it just makes you feel a little bit more normal. If I have to come in and I'm wearing, a button-down blue, and I look like everybody else, does something to your psyche. So we're thinking that this will help change the relationship for our reentrants and just their mental well-being. So hopefully, again, we won't see the end results to that, but we're hoping that this will allow them to be a little bit more successful and feel a little bit more humanized, even though they're locked up 24 hours a day. Library resources. Our library is probably double the size of this room. There are our resources. We're always looking for things for our ideas or our resources for our reentrants to use, to allow them just a way to escape, the day-to-day grind of being locked up. Whether that's, reading a book or doing a crossword puzzle or whatever that may be. I just instituted a couple weeks ago, color. I thought, what better way to kind of just take your mind off of the day-to-day, grind of progress than, I want to color. That might make somebody happy. Wouldn't make me happy, make me frustrated, but somebody that enjoys that, it would make them extremely happy to color. So we don't allow the coloring utensils to be sent in, but we will provide them to them, and they must return them when they're done, as a way just to kind of another avenue for them to escape.
Do you need books?
Yes, I mean we can always use more books. We do not have the ones we have been used heavily for the better part of 20 years since SCI Greene opened. So they're old.
Let's talk about that after your presentation.
Okay. Since I've been there, we've not. I don't believe. I could be wrong, and maybe we got some from SCI Crescent when they closed down, but they're very far and few between. But again, just to go along with library resources, being able to allow our reentrants to those avenues to get away from progress for a little bit, whether that's talking with a family member over a 15-minute Zoom call, whether that's coloring, whether that's some sort of wall art or puzzle building.
Do they have in-person visitation?
No, that went away with COVID, and probably if you're going to have to look at a positive for COVID, the easiest way for somebody to bring in contraband to a facility is in-person visits. And so we did away with that, and we're hoping that they don't come back because of that. And we can monitor Zoom calls while doing work, and make sure that nothing is
That they're not doing an
nudity or
escape plan.
right. Just it ain't crazy, but the reentrants really like that. They enjoy that.
I bet.
That 15 minutes of hey.
How often do they get that?
We have to go along with our pods, the incentive-based pod, C pod. Our most incentive, they get it once a week. One 15-minute call a week or visit a week, if their family member wants to. B pod and A pod, we have work assigned jobs that our reentrants can do. We don't pay them obviously an hourly rate, but we give them an indigent bag. And we give everybody on C-Pod gets an indigent bag. They're all workers, but we have block workers on A and B pod, and they get one 15-minute visit every 2 weeks. And then everybody that is a worker gets what I would consider an indigent bag, where I go to Walmart and I pick up, good soap, good shampoo, good toothpaste, good toothbrush. We provide all that stuff to everybody, but it's not.
It's an
Dove, it's not Crest.
It's an upgrade.
It's a big upgrade, and we also provide them with some snacks. A bowl of ramen, a bowl of oatmeal, stuff that they can snack on. Popcorn is big. Pop-Tarts, stuff that they can kind of snack on throughout the course of the month until we do that. We do that incentivized bag once a month. So, they really, really look forward to that bag.
Mhm.
So they are the jobs that we have. We have 30 jobs in our facility, and we have 60 reentrants. So half the people in our, or half the reentrants in our population get some sort of incentive bag. And if you're lucky enough, you'll get 2 bags, one 30 days and then 30 days later, because you're there for 70 days. So, but I believe that's it. So, any questions that we didn't go over? Or
Well, we've had a lot of questions.
Yeah, we answered.
It
a lot.
seems like it's kind of like a boot camp.
Oh, I mean,
And it's more structured than the prison, right? It's more
well,
structured.
I've never been in prison. I've never worked in the prison, so I can't say that for certain. I know how we run it, how it was run before me. We're trying to make it a little less strict, allowing a little bit more freedom, as much as we can give you without letting you out the front door, i.e. the clothes, the virtual visits, some of the other things that we have with the groups, the computer access. However, at the end of the day, it's a punishment. You're there because you did something wrong and you need to pay your debt back to society. And that's our way of kind of doing that and kind of letting them know, hey, listen, you didn't commit a new crime, but if you weren't on parole, it could have been a new crime, So, we want to make sure that everybody that leaves our center is left it better, and is a better individual because of it. Our counselors, our treatment staff, they do an amazing job of having a caseload of 20 that they meet with, sometimes multiple times a day. But our social worker does a fantastic job of setting up aftercare plans when they leave. I really wish we could see the end result and hear those success stories. But we just unfortunately in our line right now we can't. But I don't think it would change how we go about our day-to-day job, and we're there to provide a service to these reentrants and to help them become better members.
Yeah, basically, if they want help, you'll give it to them, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, just to follow up on that, I mean, I know this is subjective, but I mean, what percentage of these guys who are there would you say are motivated to take what you give them and use it? Because some of them
on a high end, probably 80%.
Really?
It's a good many. I mean, because they're away from all the dumb stuff. They're away from their friends. They're away from the temptation. All they can focus on is the good people in front of them. Are they strong enough to stay away from the bad apples on their pod? Most of them, yes, because they're not friends with them. So they can stay away, and they don't have to. They can go into their cell, and they don't have to deal with someone else's negativity, or they can go outside. Doesn't mean we don't have problems. Doesn't mean there hasn't been fights and this, that, and there are. Anytime you put 60 grown men in a closed area, there's going to be problems somewhere. But we do our best to kind of stop that before it starts. And then when we see something, that might be a little bit out of the ordinary, we try to cut it off before it becomes a problem. I really believe the majority of the reentrants there, they're appreciative of the work that we put in. They want to, deep down, they want to get better. They want to do right, but it's once they get out is when the real work starts. It's easy to do it while you're kind of confined to a certain schedule.
I'm sorry, but I gotta.
Yeah, I think that's good. That's good. Well,
Thank you very
for
much, I
coming, Ellen.
appreciate it.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, well, this has been very, very